everyone. I'm about to introduce to you author Alan Eskens, and we're going to be talking about his brand new book that is coming out today called The Shadows We Hide. And this is Alan's fifth book. I love his books so much. They are amazing. And you know what we're going to talk about is the fact that in all of his books, they're not a series, but all the characters keep showing up. A different character shows up in every one of his books. And this book was so good. They just keep getting better and better. And I was so excited when I saw that this book was coming out. I've been waiting for it. So everybody, here is Alan. Hi everyone, I am so excited to be speaking again with author Alan Eskens, and we are Eskens. Why did I say Eskens? Eskens, and we are talking about his brand new book, which he has right in front of him, and it's called The Shadows We Hide. Yes, I love this book cover. I love this book so much, Alan. They keep getting better and better as I read your books.
Well, thank you. That means I'm growing as an author, I guess.
Yeah, the story. I mean, I love how you take the characters in all your books and like put them in the stories. So we already know them, or at least a part of them, and then we get to know them a little bit better, and then a little bit in a little bit different way. They're not series though. It's not series books.
No, and I kind of stumbled upon this idea, but Dennis Lehane kind of uses this in his three-book trilogy, that he did. Live by Night and those books, where he's talking about a community of people. And so what I wrote about is a community of people in my first book, The Life We Bury. And then I started telling different people's stories going forward. So Joe Talbot is my protagonist in The Life We Bury. Then I have three books where the protagonist is Max Struper for the most part. There's other characters that come in and out of those novels. And then after those three books were done, I came back to The Life of Barry and Joe and wanted to do another story about him. And I wanted that story to pick up 6 years later. So that's The Shadows We Hide. Joe, who was a college student in The Life of Barry, is now a reporter for the AP. And in The Life of Barry, I set it up so that he didn't ever meet his father. He was named after his father, but he's never met the man. So the beginning of The Shadows We Hide starts with Joe as a reporter coming to find out that a man named Joseph Talbot has been found dead in southern Minnesota. So that starts the questioning, is this Joe's father? If so, who was this man? What happened to him? But it also allows me to go back and revisit the relationships that I created in The Life of Barry. Joe and Lila, his girlfriend, Joe and his autistic brother Jeremy, and most important in this novel is Joe and the disintegrated relationship that he had or has with his mother.
Yeah, and that's another thing I love about your books is all the family relationships in them. And this one, and I suggest everybody go read, if you didn't read the first one, go read it, because I think it really helped with knowing Joe and knowing his kind of before this story. I thought it did. And I actually went through it again because I owned it. And I was like, I was going back into it to, like refresh my memory on him. And, I love this story though about him. It takes it to a totally different side of him, I should say.
Yeah. And I wrote it as a standalone, but if you've read The Life of Barry, the standalone of The Shadows We Hide deals with a lot of decisions that were made by Joe in The Life We Bury. And it presents a different side of Joe. In The Life of Barry, Joe was running away from home, so he wasn't quite comfortable with himself yet. But now he's comfortable in his skin, and the question is, does he like the person that he's become? And so that was fun to write about as well. So it presents Joe in a little different light than what he was in The Life of Barry.
Yeah, and family relationships are not easy, okay? I don't think anybody thinks that. But especially like I have 6 children, okay? And as they're getting older now, my oldest son is 31, you think that it gets to a certain place, but it's always changing, always. That relationship is never stagnant. And that's what I loved about him, because he kind of had to learn that. And I'm not giving any giveaways on this, but it's kind of his process. And I love being in his head in how he deals with not only Lila and his brother and his mom, and then his father who, passes away. We that's not a giveaway, but because it happens in the beginning. But he has to deal with all of that, and I really loved being in his head through his journey.
Yeah, and that's what I like about writing the most. I do write mysteries,
Hmm.
technically,
Right.
but when I'm outlining my mysteries, I use the mystery as a vehicle to tell the character story. So there's always this, in movies they call it the B plot.
Right.
To me, it's more the A plot, but the mystery pulls the reader through the story, but the characters' relationships pull the reader deeper into the story. So if you're going to feel emotion in my novels, it's going to come from the relationships and not from solving a mystery.
Right. And I love your titles. Okay. I mean, this is your fifth
I do
book.
too.
And I was like, they have, because I was writing them down and I'm like, they kind of all have a theme going, even starting with, the life we bury. I don't know. They kind of just all, and then going to the shadows we hide. It's like they all kind of just go together,
And when the Life Library wasn't the original title. Neither was my second book, The Guise of Another. My agent wanted me to find titles that match the theme of the novels a little better, and so that's really where my titles come from. Is I dig into what is the theme of the novel. The Shadows We Hide was a little more difficult because I wanted to try and match it up also with The Life We Bury in terms of the language and cadence of it. So I had some restrictions. But otherwise, yeah, I look for what is the theme within the novel and try and draw the title out from that.
Yeah. And I love Lila, by the way. I'm so happy that we keep seeing her in different ways. I hope you keep going back to her because I love
Um,
her.
my sixth book I just turned in,
Uh-huh.
which it's actually the backstory of uh, Bodhi Sandon, who is a law professor in the library, and he's a co-protagonist in The Heavens May Fall.
Right.
I wanted to tell his story when he was 15 years old, so that's the next book coming out. But after that, I'm currently outlining a book for Lila, where she's the primary protagonist.
I love her story so much, like, and how she deals with him. I love that too. But okay, let's just start off. In the beginning of this book, we start with Joe because I go back and I reread that first chapter after I'm done with a book. Always. I
Okay.
started doing it with thrillers, but now I do it with every book. And I was like, oh, I forgot. Even though I'm reading them so fast, you actually do forget where you start. You just do. I don't know, or I do. But I go back and okay, Joe has just had a fight. We start off with
Yes.
him, having had a fight, which is kind of his personality, right? I mean, he is a fighter in all sense of the word, I think.
Yeah, and he doesn't go out seeking trouble,
Right.
but he was a bouncer through most of his college life. He knows how to take care of himself. He was a wrestler in high school, so when confronted, he knows how to take care of himself. But yeah, if you look closely, the first chapter, and I think it's chapter 38, start out with pretty much the same paragraph. It's Joe laying on the hood of his car, looking up at the night sky, um, and he's contemplating how he got to that point. So in the first chapter, he's contemplating how he got to that point. Then we go back in time and we follow how he got to that point. And then when he gets to that point, now we start over in chapter 38. Now we're caught up to why he's laying on the hood of his car, and we go forward from that point.
Right. That's right. I didn't even think of that. And I'm like, yeah, as you're talking, I'm like, you're right. I didn't even, realize that. And when I went back and reread that first chapter, I was like, oh, that's where we started. I'd completely forgot. But then I wrote down the last line of the first chapter because I loved it. And you wrote, yet as bad as that day had been, the day that followed would prove that things can always get worse.
Yes, I love heaping problems on my characters. I really do. When you talk about having your own relationships and how they always change, I make the characters in my novels have problems, and I want it to be as hard as possible to solve them because that draws out the emotion.
Yes, absolutely. Well, wasn't I'm trying to remember the guy that wrote Save the Cat because he's no longer with us, but he was
Uh, Blake,
yeah, Blake. That's it.
Snyder, Blake Snyder.
Blake Snyder. And he always had a thing where something like you put your character up in a tree, you throw rocks at him, and then you bring him back down. But in the beginning, he's got to save the cat. Like somehow you got to like him first, and then you put
Yes.
him up there and throw rocks at him. That's like I always love that, and I always thought I was thinking about that when I was reading Joe. I'm like, yeah, rocks were getting thrown. Okay.
Yeah, and I went to a seminar with Donald Moss, who was one of the instructors, who's a literary agent, and he said basically, heap as much problems on your protagonist as possible. You step back, take a breath, and go back in, heap some more problems on him. You step back and say, what else can I do to make this guy's life miserable? And you just keep going back at it.
Yeah, and I was feeling sorry for Joe, at some points. But you know what I love about him is that he's not a victim. He's not a victim to his. I wouldn't call him a victim. Like he doesn't take on that at all.
He's a little less empathetic in this, or less sympathetic in this novel than he was in the previous one, and that was by design, because one of the struggles that he has is he a good man?
Right.
That was one of the underlying themes in this novel, and that came to me as I was driving on the road listening to an Alabama song. She's a lady down on love. She needs somebody to gently pick her up. She's got her freedom, but she'd rather be bound to a man who would love her and never let her down. And when I was listening to that song, I thought, I want to write about that kind of relationship. And so from Lila's point of view, that's where the song comes in, is, that's how she looks at Joe.
Right. I can so see that now. And I don't want to give away any spoilers. I did love the ending, though. I really did. When I got to it, I was like, oh, it's such a good, but don't go ahead, everybody, because you're not going to understand it anyway. But I love
don't read the last chapter.
Don't read the last chapter, but my favorite was the last paragraph, and I was like, oh, that was so good. It was so much fun to read, and I love it. And it is like a thriller, crime thriller kind of, but it was so much fun to read. I mean, I really enjoyed just the reading of it, which is such a testament to your writing, because when I enjoy the words, and, I know you were a lawyer, so I know you know how to write.
Well, now those two things don't actually equate.
Yeah.
When I first started writing creatively, it was tough because I was trained both as a journalist writer and as a legal writer, because you write much more declaratively. Yeah. You don't have contractions. It took me a long time. If you look at the first draft of my first manuscript, there's not a contraction in the whole thing because I had beat it out of myself, never used contractions, because in legal writing you just don't. So I had to go back and learn a whole new method of writing.
Yeah, that's true. I was a legal secretary, okay, in my before life. I worked for a lot of large firms in DC and in California, and I realized that sometimes I'll read a letter that I write to somebody and it's so legal. I'm like, stop writing. I'm like, it's so formal. It doesn't sound, like readable. So I do understand what you mean, because there's no emotion in it. And I go back and I'm like, oh, I'm writing that so legal. I gotta stop doing that.
Yeah, and as I was studying creative writing, I was also practicing law, and I purposefully started writing more creatively in my legal writing. So, my paragraphs, instead of being it's introduction, rule, analysis, conclusion, I would throw some snarky lines in there, or be sarcastic and start using more hyperbole, and just because I figure that judges get tired of reading that formal legalese, and I want to be a little more entertaining and maybe get their attention.
You probably did. You probably made their day when they got one of your briefs.
Well, I was known as being a creative attorney, not necessarily for my writing, but for my theories.
Right. But you're writing full time now, right?
Right. I closed my practice a couple years ago.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, because I think you should be writing. So, that's my opinion too.
I agree.
You agree, right? And all your fans agree. Hold up that cover one more time before we go. I just want to show everybody, because I do love the cover so much, and your covers are the same thing. Like I was looking at all of them today, and I was like, because on your website, and I'm going to have the link listed below because you should go to his website. I loved watching your videos, and you have stories about each one of your books. And when you look at the covers, I love that they all look like your books. they all look, like it's, oh, that's an Alan Eskens book. Like it looks like it,
Yeah. And The Life of Barry and this being the sequel to that, The Shadows We Hide, both have barns on the cover.
Yes.
Where The Life of Barry has a winter barn, and this
Yes.
has a summer barn, and it's very important. I mean, the barn is integral to the story in both of them.
Yes, absolutely. And I didn't see this on your website, but I read it somewhere that The Life We Bury, is that actually going somewhere, like in the movie world?
It's in development to become a film. The process takes forever, and there's always, there's never guarantee. Yeah. But it's still moving forward, and my fingers are crossed. I'm hoping it becomes a film.
Oh, I hope so too. I really do. I hope that works out. And I know that it's such a long from the time they buy it till it gets up there is a long time. But
and I know that you also have a desire to do like screenwriting. You've written a screenplay. For my sixth book, I decided to write the screenplay for it. I just turned my sixth book into my publisher. Now I'm writing the screenplay for it. And that is such a different beast. With a novel, I have no page limits. Whatever the story is. But for a screenplay, 120 pages, you got to take 300 pages of wonderful novel and turn it into 120 pages of screen time, and it's cutting. I can't cut my own stuff. It's so hard to do.
I know. I just talked to screenwriter Eric Bork, and he wrote Band of Brothers.
Yes, I watched that.
Oh, did you watch that? Yeah, and I have another one. I just talked to him. I'm going to be posting it tomorrow. But because he was talking about the idea, but we were talking about how when you take a book, because he took the Band of Brothers book and had to make it into a screenplay, and how the action, you take, 15 pages of action and put it in 2 sentences on a screenplay. Like it's just, so like you said, it's hard to cut down. Those action scenes have to be just cut,
Well, it's the action scenes, but also the subplots, the small subplots, the little thing that makes, for example, in The Life We Bury, there's this, the nursing home director. She has her own little, journey of her own, which probably won't make it in the movie because that's one, of many, many, many little small subplots that are in the book.
Yes. But then I always think that makes for more movies, right?
Say that again, my dog
That makes for more movies, right?
Yes.
They could just keep making the movies then, to get all those in, right? That's how I look at it. And when I post this, everybody's going to be kind of in the middle of NaNoWriMo.
Yeah.
Which I'm going to do this year. So I'm going to, I'm starting that tomorrow, and we'll see how that goes. So I encourage everybody out there who's at this point, maybe some of us have already quit. I hope not by the time I post this. It's a very daunting experience. I did quit last year, so I'm going to try to make it through this year. But
I've never done that before. Now, do you set a specific word count at the beginning of the month? What is your word count?
I don't know. I think last year I overwent, and then so you get discouraged. So I'm trying not to have like two. I'm gonna just try and see how many I do get. How about that? Like, writers like you guys, you can hammer out 10,000 words and be like, "Oh, good, day done." Like, what? I cannot do that. So I'm trying to just not have an amount this year. And write as much as I can. Like, have a time period, like 45 minutes in the morning. Set my clock 45, my alarm 45 minutes early. Do 45 minutes. And just write. No editing. Just write whatever I want to write. And see what happens.
Yeah, and that's the thing that would stop me is I can't stop editing. So if I write something and I get the next day to write some more and I'm thinking, okay, I can make that better what I wrote yesterday. I can't move on till I go back and make that better. Then I can move on.
Yeah. Yeah, and
it'll just eat at me.
Right, because you are an outliner. Like, you like to really make it, so it's very difficult for you to go in and just be like, okay, I'm going to write this out. It's because you like to plan I can see that would be a little bit more difficult. But, I think that the exercise of doing it is knowing that at the end of the month you might have something that you can then go back. And I think a lot of writers do that.
Yeah, rule number one of writing is write it. Get it on paper. You can't edit what's a blank page, so get it down.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
there's another thing I like, which is first draft. I'm shoveling sand into a sandbox, so I can go back later and build sand castles. So get the sand in the box, and then go back later and make sand castles out of it.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Alan. I love talking with you. I cannot wait for the next one. Okay, I was so excited when I saw this one, and that's why I texted you right away. I'm like, wait, he's got another one. I can't wait to talk to him about it. So, thank you
Next
so
year.
much. It was so much fun to read. And when is
Well,
the next?
thank
Do you
you.
know when the next one's coming out? Is it because
Oh,
you do kind of like an every year, like this
yeah,
time?
we do August, November, October, sorry, October, November every year.
Yeah,
We don't have a specific date for the next one, but it'll be sometime in the
next
fall
fall.
winter season.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And
Thank
everybody,
you.
I'm going to have all the links listed below and the Amazon link because you can get the book today. And I wish
You
you a
can pre-order it today.
pre order. No, this is coming out that day. I'm going to
Oh,
put.
okay. Never mind.
So they can get it. And also, they can get all the other ones. I'm going to have the links listed below and your website because your website's a lot of fun. So thank you so much. And we will talk again for the next one.
It's been a pleasure.
Okay. Have a great day.
You too. Bye
Watching
bye.
my interview with Alan, he is so amazing. I could talk to him forever. He is like one of my favorite writers, and you have to go get this book. It is really, really that good. I suggest all his books because they're all this good, but like I said, I think this one's even better. But I'm so happy for him. And like I said, all the links are going to be listed below, and I'm going to be giving away a copy of it over on my Instagram. So head over there today to get a copy of it. Thanks, everyone.